All right, I might just welcome everybody. This is Eva Hussein speaking, Director at Polaron. Many of you know me personally, but for those of you that don't, I'll give you a little bit of introduction as well as of the people that are going to be presenting today. I wanted to start by saying to you that the series of these webinars have been designed and thought through with one purpose only, and that is to develop better relationships with you, and also to empower you to improve your skills, to be connected to a greater community. At the moment, as we're coming out of the COVID situation, hopefully, everything improves. But I am hearing from a lot of translators, interpreters that the work has dried up, that the situation as far as how much work comes in has changed. So what we are doing with you and for you is to give you information that we think is valuable, to help you, in your work, and to help us, of course. So I'll get Andrea, who's been assisting us behind the scenes, to move on to the next slide, so I can just briefly comment about who I am. So my job here at Polaron is mostly marketing and business development, but I am a practicing interpreter and translator. So I speak from my own experience about what might be happening out there for you. What I want to do is to introduce to you a couple of people that are going to be presenting or co-presenting with me. But before I do that, we'll move on to the next slide. Thank you. And this is Agata. So those of you that work with Polaron know her friendly face and her friendly manner. She has been with us for nearly 2 years. It'll be 2 years in December. And she's someone that I really love working with you. And I'll tell you why, because she's one of the most structured people you'll ever meet. So she's got engineering background, which I do not have. I'm more of a creative, chaotic person, I guess. But Agata's very well organized, very well structured, very patient, superbly patient, even with me when I'm running, late every now and then with translations. So she's someone that I have a lot of respect for and a lot of time for. And those of you that have worked with her will no doubt agree. We also have Travers, who has been working with us since March 2019, so just over a year, so about 15 months. And he's our resident techie. So if we're stuck on anything technology, IT, computer, he's the guy that will come to the rescue. And Travis is also someone that's got excellent customer skills, and the reason I love working with him is because he is always so pleasant and so very helpful. And I'm not just sort of tooting our own horn, but I think the team that we have at Polaron is extremely professional and very helpful at all times. So we move on now to tell you, and particularly those ones that don't know as well or don't currently work with us. We had, I think our registrations were like close to 100 people, and we're also streaming this live on Facebook. So really this is our opportunity to tell you what we do. And what we do is translations and interpreting, but a lot more than that. So we've been around since 2000. This is our 20th year. In November, we're going to be celebrating anniversary of 20 years. We work with around 1,500 interpreters and translators. All of them are based in Australia. We also work with community organizations, with bilingual facilitators. We work with ethno-specific organizations, and we do primarily work with people that are in charge of communicating with diverse audiences in Australia. And the reason I'm telling you this is that it's a very important job, and I think it's often perhaps a little bit undervalued or a little bit underappreciated. But this, from me to you, is a message of how much your work is valued and how much we appreciate your input and also your care with crafting that message, communicating that message to people who might not be able to get it otherwise. And we move on to the next slide. We are an international office, and we often do all kinds of creative things to try and stand out from the market. One of them, you're seeing there on your screen, a photo from a forum that we run annually, that we've had to reschedule in March of this year, but it is a diversity forum to which we invite everybody. So as far as the services that we provide, we in 2013 we came up with this idea of co-design, before it was a word, of our translations with the community, because I think you'll all agree that at the end of the day, translation is only ever important if it reaches the audience, and if it's developed in a way that the audience can actually understand. And people that we translate for, or you translate for, may have difficulties with communication anyway, because they may have low literacy levels or whatever it is. So we, for our clients, we go to the community and ask them how best to craft that message. We do a lot of consultations, we do focus groups. Nowadays, we also produce a lot of multimedia resources that'll include things like podcasts and videos and infographics. And that is because, people that we develop translations for also communicate in a different way than even last year. So, translation is not always the best way to craft messages for people. People are expected now, or are expecting, I should say, to get information that's chunked. They want subtitles, they want videos. Everybody's got a phone, so we try and be responsive to that need, rather than translate stuff that nobody's ever going to read. We do graphic design, and we also do a little bit of interpreting, not a lot, including video interpreting that many of you would know about. And moving on, Andrea there, thank you. What I'm going to do now is I hand it over to Travis, and I've already told you what a wonderful person he is, so he now has to live up to that expectation. But over to you, Travis. You're going to tell us about desktop publishing, and again, we've picked this topic to see whether we can empower you and give you a bit of inspiration, I guess, in this sort of gloomy times, that there are things you could be doing to make yourself more marketable. Over to you, Travis.
Thank you very much, Eva, for your kind words. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all having a fantastic week so far. Let's talk about desktop publishing, shall we? Okay, so one of the biggest benefits of desktop publishing is it sort of centralizes everything that's done in terms of a project management perspective. If we're centralizing something by assigning a translator to do the translations as well as the design aspect of a job, it's all being centralized to that one aspect. Now, a few benefits of this is it actually speeds up the process, as there's actually more time spent on the translations and the DTP done by one person, and there's actually fewer steps involved in that. This also actually improves the overall quality of a translation, as the DT specialists that we have in-house as well as externally sometimes don't actually know the languages. So it's really great to see that when we centralize something and we give the translator both the DTP task and the translation itself, everything is very centralized, and the quality and efficiency of that project is huge. And the biggest one, which I'm sure you're all very pleasant and very excited to hear, is more paid work. Obviously, if we can assign different translators the ability to do both the design aspect and the translation side of things, there's definitely more work that's going to come your way. If you can do anything that's going to help myself, Agatha, or any one of our other PMs in terms of making our life a lot easier, it's definitely so much easier to assign these jobs to you. Because we obviously experience a few different things through our jobs, especially with a bunch of different languages that we have to deal with from a project management perspective. And if you can make our lives a lot easier, it's definitely going to be worthwhile for you. So in the next slide here, Gat is actually going to go through just some of the basic steps in relation to Adobe Creative Cloud. She's just going to run through how you sort of set yourself up for these trials, and how you can sort of get yourself into the mindset of a designer. Over to you, Gats.
Thanks, Travis. Hello, everyone. So I will tell you how to start using the InDesign. So what we actually need if we want to use InDesign, we need to have a license. But probably no one would like to spend the money if you're not sure if you would like to, if you don't know how to use the software, if you're not sure if you will be using it in the future. So what we're recommending is just to try the free 7-day trial. So all you need to do is just go to your browser and just type Adobe InDesign trial. And then the first page will allow you to go and download the software. And after you will install, so you just need to remember, on the website, you will need to complete also your details. And then after 7 days, within 7 days, you need to remember to delete your account, because otherwise Adobe may charge you for the license. And then we can install our software. And there is basically few tools that we need to start using InDesign. And we will be able then to produce the simple project. And now Travis will tell you more about those tools.
Thank you very much, Gat. So we have a few different tools that are available in InDesign. Some may be very familiar with you, obviously using the Microsoft Office suite a lot, but I'll just run through a few of them just so that we're sort of on the same page, and then we can snowball that into an example that my colleague Gat will show you later on. So we have basic selection tools. You'll be very familiar with this from programs such as like Word, just basically selecting different types of text and moving them around in terms of formatting. And we have typing, which is, I'm sure everyone knows who has a keyboard, it's pretty straightforward. We have zooming tools. We also have a few different shortcuts that we can also implement during our InDesign DTP that will actually speed up the process a lot. We'll show you a few of those tips today. We also have an eye-dropping tool, which is a very probably unfamiliar one to a few of you, but I'll go through it briefly. It basically just involves using different colors and making it a lot easier to select different text. For example, if you have a similar color that is being used in multiple aspects of a text, you can take this tool and slap it onto the color scheme, and it will actually convert the text into that color. We also have Control-V and Control-C, copy and paste. We all definitely use that religiously with Word. And we have two very language-specific ones. Now, we have text direction and paragraph setup. These are both very familiar for those who deal with right-to-left languages, such as Arabic, Farsi, and Dari. The text direction tool actually allows you to manually select it from right to left, as without that setting being selected, there are a few issues that can occur during the design stage. And we also have paragraph setup. There is a special key term in InDesign, which is called World Ready Paragraph Viewer. I know it's a mouthful, but you'll get used to it once you've used the software enough. This basically means that a paragraph is being set up in a certain way to be read in a specific language. So Gats is actually going to go through in a little bit later, just showing you all this stuff and actually showing you a physical example on a project that we have completed. In the next slide, I'm also just going to touch base on DTP style guides. So with the DTP style guide, this is something that we actually give to our design specialists upon the assignment of a project. And this basically just helps them come into line with all the rules and regulations that we have when we're actually assigning a project. So Andrea, if you could just go to the next slide for me. Okay, so these are just some of the few rules that we use on a day-to-day basis. We've obviously left the most important ones in there, so I'll just read them out to you. We have all text that is actually meant to be left in English must remain in the original source font. Now, a big thing that we get from our clients across many different languages is that we have to try to achieve consistency. And the best way to do that is by introducing something like a style guide, so we can make sure that everything is looking relatively the same, apart from the different languages that may be used. So anything that is left in English or has not been translated, say it's a business name or a company name, it must remain in the source font. Leaving all numbers in English unless otherwise stated is also another huge one. This is also very dependent on the client as well, as some different companies have different preferences when it comes to using numbers, depending on the core demographic group that they're trying to reach. But as a basis, we try to make sure that we leave all numbers in English. The font size should also remain the same without altering the layout of the document. So we see with a lot of languages like Tamil or Samoan, the language text can actually expand upwards of 50%. And especially when you have documents such as fact sheets or posters that aren't catered towards a text expansion, it can be quite difficult to sort of match that. But as best as we can with languages that don't expand as much, it's a lot easier and it's recommended to actually keep the font size. Lastly, we also have the formatting of text. This is very, very simple, and I'm sure you'll understand things like italics, bold and underline, highlights, as well as the use of different colors. This needs to be maintained throughout the whole document. Again, just reiterating the importance of achieving consistency throughout translations. We want to make sure that every single language looks identical as best as we can. I'm now going to pass you on to my colleague Gats, who will go through an actual example of a design element that we've used in the past. She's actually going to go step by step of how to create a PDF and tell you about the different examples between a high quality and a low quality PDF. Over to you, Gats.
Yes, I will show you how it looks like in practice. I will just share my screen with you so you can see the InDesign. Andra, can you help me share the screen?
Oh, yes. So probably we'll need to reply some of the questions while we fix some of the technical issues. So we have a few questions, guys, in the chat. How much is the license for InDesign? Can you just
yeah, so I've replied on that on the chat line, and it's just under $30 per month Australian. That's inclusive of GST. And what we would be recommending for people to just try it firstly free of charge, but make sure that the cancellation is done, you know, within 7 days if you don't think you'll ever need it. But the other thing you could potentially do is share the license. So if there was a group of, say, you know, 3 people that would want to share the cost, that'll be about, you know, $10 a month or whatever it is. But again, you know, try it out and see if it is something that you can commit to. And I mean, you can cancel anytime as well, but they will charge you per that month, which is just under $30. Okay, I think Agatha, we've got yes, the host, so go for it.
Yes.
So I'm just trying to share the screen. Yeah, now it's working.
Yes.
Okay. So what we're receiving from our client, if they won't like us to use the InDesign, is the InDesign package. We have document fonts, links, and the InDesign file. Here I have also the English PDF that we're using at the end to just for the quality checking. And here I have our bilingual template. So here you can see the InDesign document. I can navigate the document. If I want to zoom, I can use this zoom tool, or I can just press Alt and scroll using my mouse. So let's start. I will just copy the first characters. I'm just pressing Ctrl+C. Now I'm using the type tool. And I'm just highlighting the text. And I'm pressing Ctrl+V. You may see that it seems like it's not working, but that's not actually the case. The text is not appearing because not all fonts are intended for all languages. So we need to adjust the font here. I will change it to Arial Unicode. And now we can see the Chinese characters. Let's go to the next line. So I'm doing again, I'm highlighting the text, I'm pasting it. And once again, I'm changing the font. I also changing it to be bold, so it matches the style. And here we can see that it's actually not looking good. The spacing is, we need to increase the spacing. So I'm using this tool to increase it. And also, if we want, we can, using the selection tool, we can adjust the frame. Okay, we can continue. So yeah, you may see that it's basically just copying and pasting. And there is a few more details. Okay, and here you can see that we have also English text. So what I will do now, I will change the text, but only for the Chinese characters, because as Travis mentioned before, we actually want to have the English text in the original font. Okay, next bit. And here we can see that the color is actually not there, but we can easily fix that. We can use the color theme tool, and we can just apply it now to the link. Now, once again, I'm applying the right font. And we almost completed that our typesetting example. Just one more. And I will show you shortly how to save the file. So here, actually, I need to move the frame a little bit so it's not behind the text. Okay, we have it done. So now I will just save it as a InDesign document first. And now I will show you how to create the high resolution PDF and low resolution PDFs. So when we're using those kind of PDFs, when we want to just have a draft of document, or if we want to use it for website, we will save the document in low resolution. So you need to make sure that you're saving this file as a type Adobe PDF print. And then in Adobe PDF preset, you're choosing the smallest file size. And you can see in the description that we're using these settings to create documents best suited for on-screen display, email, and the internet. The files will be actually much more smaller than the high resolution files. And I will show you in a second that you can see how the high resolution and low resolution PDFs are different between each others. Okay, we can see here that the document is being saved. Now, if we want to have high resolution, that it's needed for printing, we are also saving this as a PDF print. And now we need to choose in Adobe PDF preset, high quality print. And I will need just to wait for the document to be saved. Okay, it's ready. So we have now high resolution. And low resolution here. You can see the difference at the picture. That it's the file on the left has a much better quality. But actually, if we looking at the text, at first glance, the files are looking almost similar. So at the end of doing the typesetting, we're just comparing the in language file with the English version, just to make sure that we have the right colors, that everything is in place, that we have the right font here, that we have the right colors. And you can also notice here that we asked the translator to keep the English name in brackets afterwards. So that is why it's important when we asking you to, for example, we asking you please translate and put the English name in brackets afterwards, because the client wants us to create files that at the end are similar, like consistent in all languages. So even if it's Arabic, Chinese, Polish, the style will look similar. And that's actually, we actually completed our typesetting example. And now we can go to the next slide, and I will pass you to Travis.
Thank you so much, Gats. That was actually very interesting. I actually just learned something new with the eyedropper tool that you just showed me there. So I'm learning stuff as we go along. So it's very, very good to see. I'll just do a quick summary of everything that we've discussed over the last couple of minutes, as I can already see the chat has a few different questions that we will look to answer at the end of this. So Fentrey, if you could just go to the next slide for me. Okay, so just basically in summary, as I reiterated at the start, we just want to sort of centralize all the components of a project. And the way that we achieve this is by assigning obviously the translation aspect and design aspect to yourselves. Because this is actually going to make communication easier in the long run, as there is no back and forth emails between myself, the design specialist, and even the translators out there. And it's actually going to improve the overall quality of the translation. This also actually means shorter deadlines, believe it or not. Responsibility for the translation and the design aspect actually allows you to complete it in a timely manner. And that results in those time frames once you become efficient and once you learn the software yourself, it becomes much more reasonable to work in. As I can see in the chat already, and Eva has mentioned, there's countless amounts of different tutorials online and learning videos that will actually assist you with learning these design tools. Obviously, if there is a lot of interest within these projects, we are more than happy to do more webinars in the future, going through in detail some of the more different characteristics that we experience and some of the tools that we will use more often, which is definitely something that we're looking forward to in the future. And the biggest thing we go back to is why should you do this? You know, why is there a reason to stop just being translators and perhaps move into that digital age? Well, it's actually going to increase your marketability a lot. Adding this skill set to your repertoire is actually going to improve your image a lot. Going back to that thought of, you know, every time we're looking at a translator or we're looking at a project with a bunch of languages, you know, we want to make everyone's lives a lot easier. And in terms when you're dealing, like I've said, with multiple languages on big projects, it's a lot easier to assign these to yourselves. And actually just the quality and the efficiency hand in hand work very well together. But as I've mentioned before, there are a lot of comments in the comment section at the moment. So I'll hand you back to Eva if we want to go through a few of those.
Yeah, thank you. So look, I'll say a couple of things right now. And one is that we try to keep this very simple because all of you have a different level of digital enablement, if I can put it that way. And of course, we no longer work on typewriters, although maybe our clients imagine us to be so. So essentially, this session is a very basic one, so that we can introduce you to what happens in our company. And I know that a lot of you freelancers work for all kinds of people and everyone's got slightly different ways of working. And I think Evelyn has asked whether we'd be willing to fund people's licenses. And I've replied that we most certainly, our in-house translators do have licenses, but it is about empowering yourself and deciding whether that's something you want to pursue or not. Because just like you, we have to go through the same process as a company. You know, what we were 5 years ago is not what we are today. The expectations from the clients are extremely hard, not only in terms of deadlines, but also price. You know, it's a competitive market. But the main expectation and the highest expectation is to have the skills that make you rise above everybody else. And that's the reality of the industry, whether we like it or not. So nowadays we do videos, we do podcasts, we do you know, subtitles, a lot of digital products that once upon a time were only ever able to be done by someone like SBS, so by a massive provider who had studios into which you had to come in, and you know, so all of that has changed, and we have to be agile. That's my personal view. You know, you guys can do whatever you like. Obviously, I'm not telling anyone what to do, but that agility and openness to new software and new ways of working is something that will keep you afloat. So, you know, with COVID, for example, when it all happened, we were able to very seamlessly send everybody home for safety reasons. But we've also now proven that yes, we can work from home. We don't have to come into the office every day, right? So I think that journey towards digital is different for everybody. So today's session is really just to give you a taste of what's possible, what's available. And I think certainly what we want to project is that we want you to write us an email. We want you to pick up a phone and speak to Travis and speak to Agata and ask for their support. And, you know, we don't want that relationship to be transactional, where all we ever send you is translations and all we ever talk to you about is problems, okay? There needs to be more to it than that. We only ever work with translators in Australia. We do not send work overseas. We do not rubber stamp our translations. It is just something that I'm extremely passionate about. There needs to be flexibility on the part of the entire market, I guess, in a way, because the goalposts are shifting. But I think we still need to be respectful of each other, and you know, we're trying to show you, you know, it's a pretty vulnerable experience, I have to tell you, because you know, the entire market is smoke and mirrors. Like sometimes you don't even know who you work for, right? So we are you know, coming out there and saying, okay, this is who we are, this is what we do, work with us, talk to us, okay? So just in answer to a couple of questions before I hand over back to Andrea, is that the question was, what can we do for you as far as upskilling you in this regard? So we're talking about desktop publishing. So what we thought we'll do is those people that are interested, we will send them a package of like a trial project, I guess. So it'll just be one page. So those of you that are willing to download the trial version of InDesign, we will send you a mini project and we will work with you on giving you feedback. Well, first of all, sending you the InDesign file, a bilingual template, and the PDF from which you'll have to work off. And then we are willing to support you in the journey of developing one mini project so that you can get a taste of it, okay? And I think that'll be the best way, rather than us talking at you, you know, try and give it a go. As Travis mentioned, there are many, many tutorials that are free. You know, if you go to YouTube, you'll find hundreds of things that you can rely on, and they'll give you a step-by-step journey. Also, Adobe's got lots of materials. So really my encouragement or my way of supporting the industry is telling you how it is for us, what we are working with, what are some of our challenges, and seeing how we can support you. So these seminars or these webinars are run once a month, and we'll try and introduce topics that are actually of use to you. So not only you can use them for your 10 points, mostly because they're short webinars for NAATI certification if you are you know, going through the process, but also give you some ideas about how you can empower yourself. With that, I'll hand over to Andrea for questions.
Thank you very much, Agata, Travis, and Eva, for taking the time to share this information with us. We have received quite a few questions in the chat, so I might just go through some of them right now. So there's quite a few feedbacks, so congratulations, guys. We have one question from Mona, and she wants to know if these instructions will be included in the trial, the free trial from InDesign.
I might jump onto that one. So the instructions for using InDesign, when you download the free trial, and even if you don't, there are a lot of materials online where you can read up on how to work with InDesign, but there are also video tutorials that will show you step by step how to use it. I have to, I guess, warn everybody that it's a very different environment than Microsoft products. So I think Travis already touched on it. So it's not an editing software, it's a design software. So the way that it works is initially quite frustrating, because we've all been used to working with Microsoft and Word and Excel, and we you know, I remember when I first started, you know, years ago working on it, I wanted to do things that wouldn't work because it's an Adobe product. So that's something you have to get your head around. But as far as you know, tutorials, as far as documentation, I'd say there's plenty of it. And I should also mention that InDesign is just one of the software packages that we use. We also use Photoshop. What else do we use, Travis? We use you'll be able to tell
a bunch of
us.
different things. So we have, yeah, obviously Photoshop, we have Illustrator, we have obviously the main one that we've taught, which is InDesign today. But there's countless of different programs out there, which is very dependent, obviously, like Eva said, on the clients that we have as well, because different clients and different design specialists obviously use different types of programs to evaluate their content. I thought while I'm speaking right now, I just will touch base quickly, if we've got enough time, on a comment that we've just received, a question rather, from Maria, just in relation to the typesetting itself, as saying is this will be in addition to translation in every case, and if so, if there is any extra payment for us to prepare the typesetting. Absolutely there is. Obviously, given that this is another skill that you guys will be learning, you will obviously be paid for the translation process as well as the design aspect as well, but it won't actually be required in every single case. As I've just mentioned there, we have different clients that use different types of programs, such as obviously InDesign and Illustrator, but we also have the ones that will go back to the normal sort of like emails or Word documents that they have, which won't actually be required to be designed, obviously being in Word documents or bilingual templates that we send you. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Travis, can someone use a share license for InDesign, or do I have to use my own license?
Yeah, so I believe Eva touched on this earlier as well. Obviously, with the payment of $30, it actually only licenses one person to use it. But as Eva says, if you do split it up amongst a few different translators, you can actually access it at different times. Obviously, everyone can't be on the same computer at the same time, but if you can split up different time periods where you can obviously spend some time learning using different materials that Eva's also mentioned online, it's definitely a more affordable price if you can split it up with a few of your translators. Obviously, I think that's the best thing to do at this stage. And
Thank
also
you.
just quickly mentioning as well, because it is a free trial, there really isn't anything to lose. You know, it's not something that is obviously a requirement, but if you are definitely very interested, it's definitely worth giving it a try, because you might find that you actually enjoy it.
We have someone asking if we have considered buying a few licenses for Polaron and giving access to the translators when.
Yes, I've already replied to that comment in chat. So our in-house translators do have licenses that we purchase for them. If people are freelancing, that's a tax deductible expense, so they can look into it themselves. So look, if we have a lot of work in one particular language, then of course we would consider it, but not as a given. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
All right. I think that's all. Thank you so much, guys. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to email us. So you're gonna see in the screen or our email address. So we're gonna be very happy to answer your questions. So if you have any concerns about your project, just reach out and we'll be more than happy to help. So our next webinar is gonna be in 1 month time. We'll make sure we send you the invitation with time enough so you can join. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'll just wrap it up by saying that we do want to hear from you. If there's any particular topics that you want us to cover, we will. We will religiously make these seminars once a month. It is an opportunity for us to show our face to you. But of course, don't wait a full month. If you have anything that you want to talk to us, please get in touch. You've got all the contact details there. We will, in the next few weeks, be slowly returning to the office, but I don't think life as we know it will return to normal, whatever that is, too quickly. But we are working remotely, and you know, we've been really busy, actually busier than ever, which is really good to see. This webinars are really an opportunity to touch base and Connect. So feel free and continue attending them. If you have any ideas about topics, that's something we really want to hear too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.